Green mountain land of Vermont, historians tell us, was first seen by the eyes of a white man in the year 1609, first permanently settled by its Yankee ancestors half a century before the American Revolution. From the day when our early settlers cleared the land and plowed the virgin fields, Vermont's story has been a story of her soil. On the brink of the American Revolution, a rebellion on Vermont soil against outside authority cost the life of William French, a citizen of the town of Westminster. Vermont has not forgotten. Here William French his body lies, for murder his blood for vengeance cries. King George III his Tory crew, thar with a ball his head shot through. For liberty and his country's good, he lost his life, his dearest blood. Nor has she forgotten her leaders in the Revolution. Ethan Allen, Colonel Commandant of her fighting Green Mountain Boys. And his able comrade-in-arms, Seth Warner, the leader in the Battle of Bennington. Here in August 1777, the Yankees crushed the enemy and hastened the end of the War of Independence. But a month before the Bennington battle, thanks to political leaders like Ira Allen, Ethan's brother, Vermont had already attained her own independence. In a tavern in the town of Windsor, a constitution was drawn up, making Vermont an independent state or republic, and the first of all the states to abolish human slavery. A distinguished cultural leader of pioneer days was the Negro preacher Lemuel Haynes. After serving as a common soldier in the Revolution, he preached to Vermont's white congregations for more than 30 years. Other pioneer leaders, like Colonel Ebenezer Crafts, founded communities in the wilderness and were able administrators. Their womenfolk shared the hardships of pioneer days. Upon the adoption of her Constitution, Thomas Chittenden became Vermont's first governor. He was still in office when, in 1791, the 14-year-old Republic of Vermont was admitted as the 14th state of the Union. For more than half a century before Vermont became a state, her incredibly rich soil, the envy of all her neighbors, had attracted a steady stream of settlers, mostly from Connecticut and Massachusetts. By the time Vermont attained her statehood, the pioneer days had passed. This was the age of building, and building well. Many of the homes built about the time of Vermont's admission to the Union, or not long after, are still lived in today. Many of the public buildings are in use. Many of the early churches still are worshipped in. The age of building brought inroads upon Vermont's second great natural resource, her forests. Conservation and reforestation were unknown in those days. Lumbering became the state's largest industry, lumber the chief export. Too rapidly, the forests fell. Without the forest cover to hold it, The rain that fell ran off in floods, sweeping precious topsoil from the hillsides. The wasting of the upland soil left a trail of abandoned farms to tell of large-scale movements of Vermont's hill population to lands more suitable for farming. Those who stayed complained that the only growing place was a cemetery. The gravestones sound their own mournful note. Of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves and worms and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow in the bosom of the earth. But the melancholy days soon passed. Wool growing was introduced early in the 19th century. It was so successful that by 1840, there were 6 sheep to every inhabitant. Wool had become Vermont's leading crop. Weaving was done on hand looms, much like those used in Vermont's revival of the old crafts today. Harnessing of water resources made possible the replacement of hand looms by power-driven mills, forerunners of today's modern plants. For a time, the industry flourished, but removal of protective tariffs and increasing competition from cheap Western wool brought an end to the sheep boom. The farmer now used the grass of his fields to feed another kind of livestock. This food the cow converted into milk. Supported by Vermont's soil, the cow became increasingly important in her economy. But Vermont is not exclusively a land of farmers. No other state has a finer tradition of Yankee ingenuity and craftsmanship, dating from the forges of the pioneers and handed down to the present day. Vermont blacksmith Thomas Davenport invented the electric motor. Under the signatures of Washington and Jefferson, the first American patent was issued to a Vermonter, Samuel Hopkins of Burlington, for a process of making potash from wood ashes. Well before Fulton's first Hudson River steamer, Vermonter Samuel Morey was running a paddle wheel steamboat of his own invention on the Connecticut River. For 140 years, Vermont-built steamboats have plied the waters of Lake Champlain. In 1810, James Wilson of Bradford, Vermont, made the first American globes. In 1830, Thaddeus Fairbanks invented the first platform scale, forerunner of those coming off Vermont assembly lines today. Vermont has long been famous for her production of machine tools. In the Civil War, besides sending more than her share of fighting men to the battlefront, Vermont supplied the Union armies with rifles made in her machine tool plants. Abundant water power has aided the growth of Vermont's world-known machine tool industry. A great advance from early lathes is the modern turret lathe, operating at a speed of 2,000 revolutions a minute. Around the modern world they go, tools and machines, machines to make machines, fruits of Vermont's tradition of fine craftsmanship from her earliest days. Today, most of Vermont's industries still are close to her soil. Reforestation has helped to restore lumbering to its early importance. Tucked away in hills and valleys are countless sawmills. They're not very big, these sawmills, but added together, they make a large and typical Vermont industry. supplying the building trades and the pulp and paper mills. Vermont's wealth lies under her feet. Among the riches mined or quarried from her earth are copper, asbestos, talc, slate, marble, and granite. Her monumental granite quarries are the largest in the world. A single quarried block weighs 25 tons or more. From the quarry, blocks go to the granite sheds for finishing. Of all the slate used in the United States, mostly for roofing, purple, mottled, and sea green slate found nowhere else in the country. Welsh artisans brought to Vermont their skill in working slate nearly 100 years ago. Their descendants carry on the work. Population in the quarry town is still largely Welsh. Truly, Vermont's riches crop out of her soil. Marble quarrying dates back to her pioneer days. Today, Vermont marble is world famous and one of the nation's great industries. The marble and granite industries today are highly mechanized, yet fine ornamental carving depends upon the skill of the craft. Vermont's Italian master carvers come from a long line, 20 generations and more, of skilled workers in stone. Scottish artisans, too, have brought their centuries-old skill to Vermont's granite industry. The Scotsmen of Barrie, granite capital of the world, presented to the city the memorial statue to Bobby Burns, designed in Scotland, but carved of Vermont granite by Italian craftsmen in Barrie. From the marble and granite of Vermont have risen most of the nation's great monuments and many of her public buildings. Built of Vermont granite is the state's capital in Montpelier. Of marble is her new state office building. In the words of a Vermonter, this brings us right back to the soil.
And in the old days, for one thing, we take better care of it. Poorer soils have been rebuilt, and we've learned a lot about soil conservation. Modern machinery makes the harvesting of our crops a much faster and a more pleasant task. Hay is our biggest crop. With the new machines, we can bale a whole field of hay in a morning or an afternoon. There are still a good many farmers who don't bale their hay, but they get it in just the same. Then there's the oats. These horse-drawn rigs for cutting oats may look old-fashioned, but they do a pretty good job. But the new machines, like the one I'm using, they cut, thresh, and bag the oats all in one operation. My boy, he's 7 now. He likes the new machines, likes to be around them anyhow. But even with all these labor-saving machines to help us out, we're on the jump all through the summer with the hay and the oats and now the corn. It's always struck me kind of funny, all this work we do is for our cows. The cows we build the barns for, the red barns, the yellow barns, and a few round barns. It's no wonder they keep us so busy. When you count them all up, the cows and the heifers, the calves and the bulls, the Jerseys, the Guernseys, the Holsteins, and the Ayrshires, there's more cattle in Vermont than people. Must be close to 500,000 head, most of them for milking. Quarts of milk and cream a day. That's what they give us all together. In a year, that comes to, well, you figure that one out. It's a good deal more than we can use up here ourselves. So most of it goes to Boston. And quite a lot of it goes all the way to New York City. Yes, we take care of our cows all right. We take care of our cows, and our cows take care of us. They've made Vermont one of the biggest dairy states in the whole country. But it isn't all work and no play up here. All along the river, down the road from where I live, there's summer camps. When city kids have been here a while, you can hardly tell them apart from country kids. There's plenty going on up here. These square dances keep us busy, the orchestra and me, 3 nights a week all summer long. I don't see do your corner, and don't see do your partner. Take yours and promenade all the rest of the day. Promenade, oh promenade, to your places all. Now, Alaman with your left hand, Alaman right to your own. Alaman left the corner again, now grand right and left around, all the way around. Oh, when you meet a passerby, you can swing her by and by. When you're home, swing your own, everybody swing. Swing that lady round and promenade. To Alaman, your left hand, don't you do your own. Now we have to think of our fall crops. Apple growing nowadays is no hit or miss affair. You've got to keep up with all the latest scientific methods. We spray our trees with hormones, to make the stems strong so the apples won't drop off before we're ready to pick them. Early in the fall, the leaves start turning. The maple trees are full of color now, but they won't give us their famous sugar and syrup until late in the winter. The apple trees are still green, but their fruit is ripe for picking now. For the crop they give us, our apple trees are second, only to the maples. The whole family pitches in to hurry things along. The season is getting on. You can always tell in Vermont. A good crop makes every farmer happy. This happens every year in Vermont. It's our fall show. We enjoy it while it lasts. The season is getting on. Soon the trees will be bare. Winter's not far off, but that's another story.